Well, a slight warming trend is on the way later this week before temperatures come crashing back down this weekend. Clay, you know, I was going to say, we may not have any snow here, but it feels like you could probably still go skiing.
Yeah, it feels like you could honestly host the Winter Olympics here in the Tennessee Valley.
Yeah.
It's been that cold lately. Again, we were down in the single digits across much of the area earlier. Yesterday, some of our mountain and plateau communities picked up a little bit of light snow. You can see this looking into parts of Polk County. This is from Benton, looking to the east. You can see those clouds coming through. A little bit of a dusting on top of some of these ridge tops. So just a really gorgeous shot. Thank you, Greg Paxton, for sending that one in. But here's a look at your temperatures. We are really struggling here to get above freezing. Still 23 in Athens, 29 in Chattanooga, 25 in Blue Ridge. Now, I do think most of you will get well into the mid to upper 30 range by the time we get into the afternoon, especially between, I would say, 3, 4, and 5 as we get into the warmest part of the day. And then tonight, we're right back into the low 20s with some of you dipping off into the teens. But things are nice out there. I mean, the winds are lighter than yesterday. We're going to be a little bit warmer, and we're going to have plenty of sunshine. Here's a look at US 27 just outside of Local 3 studios. Really no complaints. Again, other than the cold, we have some really nice weather, and we'll continue to have some nice weather the next several days. But it looks like this pattern trend that continually bringing that cold air down from the north is kind of going to stay locked into the east. Now, at some point, again, the pendulum will flip back to maybe a warmer pattern, but might not be for a while. So again, we'll watch this pretty closely. Here's a look at your temperatures. And when we say brief warm up, I mean, this is what we're talking about. Low 40s. But look what happened Saturday. We're talking highs down into the 20s here in the valley, maybe even the teens in the higher elevations. So again, similar to what we had yesterday, Saturday is going to be about the same intensity cold-wise. And look at these lows right back into the low 10s with some areas down in the single digits. But again, all week long, we're going to be well below freezing, so go ahead and brace for that. Now this weekend, of course, the big story will be the cold air because we'll likely have temperatures dropping down into the 20s on Saturday, wind chills even colder than that, and of course Saturday night we could have wind chills close to 0. So cold air is going to be the big story heading into the weekend. We're also watching a coastal low that's going to develop off the southeast coastline, and that could send a few flurries into our eastern communities. Right now, it looks like the main impacts stay into the Carolinas. Of course, this can change. You know how that goes after we tracked this last weekend storm. But essentially what's going to happen, we're going to have this piece of energy diving down with that Arctic air. Coastal low is going to develop either somewhere in the Gulf or right off the southeast coastline. And depending on how close this is to the coast, it's going to bring some snow into places like South Carolina, North Carolina, up through Virginia. And if it gets just a little bit closer to the coast, some of our eastern communities, Monroe, Cherokee, Polk, Fane, and Gilmer may get in on some of this light snow. But again, right now it looks like highest impacts are going to be well to our east. And again, it's just something to watch, especially if you're east of I-75. Again, if this ticks further to the west, we'll have to talk about the rest of the area. But for now, again, we're kind of in the middle of these two scenarios. So scenario 2, low pressure forms further offshore, and this would bring snow to areas like the Outer Banks, down into parts of Myrtle Beach and Charleston. So regardless of where this develops, someone that typically doesn't get a lot of snow into the Carolinas likely to get some. But of course, we're going to watch that to see where that western edge of precipitation ends up, because again, this is going to be a really cold air mass. Again, we had some patchy black ice this morning. Still could have some out there in the higher elevations where temperatures are still not above freezing. Sunshine, highs again close to 40. Not sure if we'll get there tonight. Back down into the teens. Going to be another cold one, and that's really the trend the next several days. Of course, we're going to have temperatures in the 40s, overnight lows well into the 20s and 10s. And then as we get into Saturday and Sunday, again, a few flurries on Saturday. We'll watch that pretty closely, but it is going to be cold all the way through next week, Latrice.
Okay, thank you so much there, Clay.